Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Is Ashton speaking to you now?
Line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
What up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. I'm your host, Ashton, for Orbs. Just kidding. That's the one. Guys, first of all, I want to address a very important fact. I claimed that we would have all the aliens when we had President Trump on multiple occasions. And I want to say we've got at least one right there. Look at this guy right here. Look at this little glowy alien guy. You might not be able to tell because it's kind of far away, but that's like an alien from the movie Aliens. There we go. So anybody that tries to slander me and say that I don't like the aliens or whatever, well, proof is in the pudding. Chat, tonight is Science and Free Energy Friday. So thank you for being here. There's a really awesome video we're going to review. All credit to the video goes to Master Evo. I think we've looked at a couple clips from this previously, but it's one of those videos where it's so big that you want to come back to it repeatedly as you understand more and more about the science and the physics. And today I realized I reached the point where watching it, I can pretty much understand and explain everything. And so I said, wow, we're going to have a pretty awesome live stream. My objective during this conversation is going to be to try to help people who are newer to this catch up. Catch up to the understanding of Master Evo in this YouTube video we're going to watch, and to catch up on the understanding of 0-point energy, ether, radiant energy, free energy, etc. Okay. So the 30-second or minute catch up here is that we have been researching this idea of free energy, and we've realized that it is a bit of a misnomer. Free energy is real, but it's not coming from nowhere. It turns out there's a reservoir of energy all around us. Everywhere. We call it space-time. Space-time. And why is this the case? Let me simplify it for everyone right out there watching. Why is it that there is this energy everywhere around us? Due to one simple concept called action. Action. What is energy? What is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. Okay, what does that mean? That means something is moving. Something is moving relative to something else, if you really simplify it. So, action. If any movement is creating energy, then at the quantum level, everything is always moving. That was the major discovery of quantum mechanics. At the quantum level, the pendulum or the swing never stops. It's always swinging. That means that if that's happening at the smallest scales everywhere, all over the place, the total amount of energy in the quantum fluctuations, which is actually what they call them, the quantum fluctuations, must be practically infinite. It must be practically infinite. And what did we learn on Monday? If you're watching this recording or listening to this recording, then go look for the Space-Time Metric Engineering live stream featuring Hal Puthoff's paper. We learned that we can modify the vacuum, modify that energy all around us, that quantum vacuum energy. We can modify it, polarize it. And if we do this, it changes the properties of the vacuum and changes the physical properties of the region in space-time on which we polarize. So, imagine conceptually tonight that this screen that you're looking at is all there is in the universe. And what we want to do is we want to modify Ashton Forbes, just the area around me, the space around me, the bubble around me. That is what we're trying to do. That's the concept of polarizable vacuum, space-time metric engineering, is interacting with this zero-point energy everywhere to create a little bubble, a little pocket of it that acts differently than the rest of it. That's what we're going to be trying to do. So before we start, the last thing I'll say is to catch up to everybody else who's out there who's just catching up to this, is that we've learned for sure it's related to electrical charge. Turns out electricity is the great unifier between the large stuff and the small stuff. Electric charge is the thing that works the same on both scales. Electric charge is potentially what is connected to gravity in a way we don't understand, but we're trying to. Okay? And the last thought is this, and this is a huge one. It's about manipulating the region around me, not about manipulating me. Don't try to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids me into a smaller version of me. Don't try to manipulate mass like that. No. Just manipulate a bubble around me and create an optical illusion of what I am to anyone who's looking at me. It's a magic trick, but one that literally distorts reality. Okay. Here we go. Oh, big shout out to everybody in MH370X as well. You guys are awesome. And Free Energy Friday is one of my favorites. Talking about free energy, how free energy is possible is amazing. I have a link to the video in the description if you want to check it out. Master Evo's name is just @MasterEvo on YouTube as well. I've watched a number of his videos and find them to be pretty good. Definitely somebody that understands electrical engineering and has a really good mind for Tesla as well. So this presentation here,
but it doesn't. It rings up.
Is all about Tesla's 1891. 1891. Hey, Larox. Larox. This is all about Tesla's 1891 lecture. Keep this in mind as well. So just keep in mind two things. One, we're trying to learn how to manipulate the vacuum. Hal Puthoff, all these other guys, all their science goes back to Tesla. Number two, I forgot. Here we go.
Radiant energy. He explained and demonstrated in the lecture the disruptive discharge
of the capacitor, which produced the current impulse. In this video, I will share quotes from the lecture and explain the principles using my VR 3D whiteboard. I will also give a demonstration with an experiment.
Okay, and guys, man, I want to get through some of this because the whiteboard, man, Yahtzee moments galore, chat. Okay, so overview right off the bat. How am I going to do this? Okay, here we go. I put timestamps down here. Here we go. 2:35. Okay, here we go.
The ether. The recognition of the existence of ether and of the functions it performs is one of the most important results of modern scientific research. The assumption of a medium pervading all space and connecting all gross matter has freed the minds of thinkers of an ever-present doubt. It has been a great step towards the understanding of the forces of nature and their multifold manifestations to our senses. Now,
okay. Number one thing you have to know, absolute most important thing you need to know when it comes to free energy, it's only possible because there is an ether. There is actually an ether. Turns out the people that said the ether is not real were full of shit. All the smartest people, all the homies knew that the ether was real the whole time. And if you are one of the smart people that realizes there's an ether and there's no such thing as empty space, then yes, you are one of the smarts, chat. Now, what is the ether? A lot of people are going to ask, what is this medium? The ether is energy. Energy doesn't have any mass, right? That's the point. E equals mc squared. Energy is just mass at the speed of light. If you go to the speed of light, you wouldn't have any mass. Or you become infinitely heavy if you get pushed. So then the question is, what is it at all? And I say that mass is potentially just trapped energy in a resonance. We are just energy that's been slowed down. But this also means that we are in a medium of energy and there's just unlimited energy to take all around us, all the time. We just have to learn how to tap into it. Now, this is when I want to quote Tesla from this. I don't know I think this was skipped over in here, but absolutely crucial quote. You ready? I'm just going to read it from my Twitter. There is a possibility of obtaining energy not only in the form of light, but motive power and energy of any other form in some more direct way from the medium. He's saying right there, we can pull energy directly from the medium all around us. Tesla, in no uncertain words, over 125 years ago. The time will be when this is accomplished. The time will be when this is accomplished, and the time has come when one may utter such words before an enlightened audience without being considered a visionary. He's basically talking to us 125 years in the future. He's saying a time will come for you when you say this on a podcast, on a live stream, and people will say, you're not even a visionary anymore. Of course we can pull energy from the vacuum. I've got my free energy device out there pulling energy from the vacuum, allowing me to produce everything going on. That day is coming. And then lastly, we are whirling through endless space at an inconceivable speed. All around us, everything is spinning. Everything is moving. Everywhere is energy. Nikola Tesla, 1891. That is just, whew. If you are a free 0 point energy 2025 advocate, that is like just inject it directly into my veins. Inject that shit into my veins. That's what I'm talking about. Energy is what? Movement. We just said that. And Tesla realized that 125 years ago that energy is just movement. Like, wait, energy just movement? Well, then energy's everywhere. How fast is our planet whirling through the universe? And that's not even considering quantum mechanics. And then you look and say, okay, well, now take into account quantum mechanics, and now the energy is just absolutely has to be infinite. It has to be infinite. This is why they had to make the ether go away. The ether had to go away because too scary. Just a little bit too scary. So, long-winded, but number one, the ether is actually real. Michelson-Morley experiment was refuted. Just turn it on its side. Just take the experiment, flip it on its side. Boom, there's your ether. Turns out gravity is an induced effect of 0-point energy. Gravity is just us pulling at the ether. Mind blown. Okay. Next one.
Maybe because we don't understand how it worked. But I think he's pretty clear, so I'm going to skip all
Not
that
super
stuff
clear.
about lightning, but it is
We're making
the
it
way
work.
he did it with electrostatic effects. So electrostatic fields, we know them from when we pull our sweater off and you get the crackling noise. That's electrostatic. It can manifest in materials that are isolators, that can be polarized, but also conductors can produce electrostatic fields. Conductors can be polarized very easily and very quickly. And that's exactly what he did. He built up an electrostatic field around a conductor by providing it gradually a very high voltage, which built up that electrostatic field. And then he suddenly discharged that electrostatic voltage through a spark gap. And that's the whole principle. And he's
okay, so the principle of what we're trying to do is use electrostatic effects, electricity, charge. What did I say just a second ago? Is that we know it's related to charge. And so Tesla knew this as well. And Tesla was saying, well, potentially we need a high voltage. We need a strong, powerful discharge through a conductor. And in a second here, he's going to explain the concept too of what does polarization then mean? Hal Puthoff is not like using an analogy when he calls it vacuum polarization and space-time metric engineering. No, he's quite literally saying the way we're going to make a warp drive is we're going to use extremely powerful electric effects in the vacuum. This is confusing. One sec.
explaining it clearly in his lecture. So let me go on. Many have been carried away by the enthusiasm and passion to discover. But in their zeal to reach results, some have been misled. Starting with the idea of producing electromagnetic waves, they turned their attention perhaps too much to the study of electromagnetic effects and neglected the study of electrostatic phenomena. Naturally, nearly every investigator availed himself of an apparatus similar to that used in earlier experiments, but in those forms of apparatus, while the electromagnetic inductive effects are enormous, the electrostatic effects are excessively small. Yep, that's what I'm missing. Now he talks about the Hertz experiments, and those are electromagnetic.
So there are electromagnetic effects and then electrostatic effects. And it sounds like the secret here is not just electromagnetic effects. We also want to be manipulating electrostatic effects. And it seems like this is an area that a lot of people have discounted. Okay, now you have my interest. So when we're talking about electrostatics, we're talking about static electricity. We're quite literally talking about rub your hair and then watch your hair stand up. Same concept, just scaling that up. Scale that effect up. Also, I think it's a good shout out here to Charles Bueller, formerly worked at NASA. I'll tell you what his position was at NASA in a second. But currently he's working on EM drive, impossible drive, because he knows there's an ether. Nobody would work on the EM drive unless you know there's an ether. And his former position at NASA was head of electrostatics. There you go. Of course it was. What else could it be? Okay.
Magnetic.
Okay. This part.
Heated, and the electrostatic effects manifest themselves outwardly only in a very weak degree. Now, I showed you that in my previous video, where I used paper as a dielectric between my capacitor plates, which are coils. And that paper heated up to around 50 degrees Celsius from a high voltage source. So yeah, there goes my electrostatic effect. And so I already came to the conclusion that that paper isn't going to work. I'm losing my energy there. That's not the way to go. Better is using air. Best, and he talks about it later, is a vacuum. Now, let me remind you that a vacuum is full of ether.
Okay. First Yahtzee moment of the night, chat. Something to talk about in a minute, but he already just kind of dropped the bomb. Because he was explaining, I did this experiment with paper, thinking paper should be fine. But paper started to heat up. So he realized, no, that's not going to work. And so he started like, okay, well, what would be better than using just paper? Paper is just thin, it just shouldn't have any conductive properties. And it's like, oh, well, let's just use the air. Let's use the air. Oh, but wait, there's still stuff in the air, though. There's actually still stuff in the air. There's a lot of hydrogen, nitrogen, whatever is in our air, right? And so then Tesla realized, well, what would be better than that? Well, vacuum. Nothing would be better. But this is also where Tesla realized that there isn't nothing. We're churning up the ether with these electromagnetic effects, electrostatic effects. We're interacting with that ether. So I think this is the connection between what we're trying to do, is that we're trying to take this bubble of space-time and we're trying to manipulate its properties. And if we can get those properties to change, we can create a medium that's the perfect medium for transmitting a wave. One in which the speed of light isn't potentially limited anymore. Okay, here we go.
And ether is just another word for energy. So the vacuum is not empty, it is full of energy. Next bit. But powerful electrostatic effects are a sine qua non of light production and the lines indicated by theory. And sine qua non means essential. So he says electrostatic effects are essential. Electromagnetic effects are primarily unavailable for the reason that to produce the required effects, we would have to pass current impulses through a conductor. So he talks about using current impulses. Well, I made a video about that. A current impulse is a singular change, a unipolar change in voltage. And when does that happen? It is with the discharge of a capacitor. So current impulses, capacitor discharge, we need a static field.
Okay, so that's huge. So the next thing we need, current discharge, current pulses. Okay, so number one, we need the ether. 2, current pulses. So this is going to be a discharge of a capacitor. Now, this is going to be extremely relevant later on. So let's see what else we need.
Electrostatic field. That means we need a high voltage capacitor. Long transverse waves cannot apparently produce such effects, since excessively small electromagnetic disturbances may pass readily through miles of air. Such dark waves, unless, and that's electromagnetic waves, unless they are of the length of true light waves, cannot.
Oh, so when I was reading this and actually not listening to what he was saying before, I think that what he was saying is that part of the problem, I interpreted this differently, but in the bottom left and the top right of this graphic here, yeah. Okay, are you guys here? I don't know what just happened. My internet just died and then came back. Weird. Okay. I'm just gonna go back to where we were just at. Bizarre. Here we go. Okay, so basically what I was getting at here, which I think is really big, and now I see where it was at, is that essentially in order to pull off these electromagnetic effects, a conventional circuit is going to melt. So instead, what does Tesla say that we need? We might need gas. We might have to use gas. Huh. And he talks about potentially saying, he said, we cannot affect by means of such waves the static, molecular, or atomic charges of a gas or cause them to vibrate and to emit light. Now, keep in mind, he was speaking from like 125 years ago, so they didn't really speak the way that we do now. But the fact that he potentially already saw the use of gas is big because what are we been talking about? We've been talking about they figured out how to use plasma. They figured out how to use plasma in combination with the effects that Tesla had already understood. So people have been secretly advancing Tesla's work related to the government since the last 125 years. This is probably why Salvatore Pais says that they could have figured this out a long time ago, like a really long time ago. I mean, Tesla in 1891 was talking about using gases to produce these luminous effects. And yes, basically when you're polarizing the gas, what are you doing? You're creating a plasma. It's literally what you're doing when you're polarizing the gas. What is polarization, chat? This is what I keep trying to tell you guys. So just combine what we already just learned in just the first 20 minutes is that we learned that, okay, well, we need to polarize our vacuum. We potentially want to use a gas as well. And what is a plasma? If you rip the electron off of your ion, now you've created this plasma and you've created a polarization because now you have a negative and positive charges are separated. And Tesla said, well, it works best if there's nothing there. Well, because everything's getting in your way. The air is getting in your way. The hydrogen atoms in the air are getting in your way, but you can use it to your benefit. You can use the hydrogen atoms in the air intentionally to create a plasma. And we can use that to power everything. In fact, we probably will. We probably will for a very long time as well. And what's the concept for why that makes sense? Because we are in an ether of energy. We are living in an ether of energy, so that energy it's resisting us everywhere we go. That energy is resisting us. So the transfer of energy will be easier when there's less resistance. So look at it like this. The same way where we have our refractive index of our medium, we can create superfluidity within that medium where everything acts at the quantum scale the same way at the quantum scale, all the way up. And if all that resistance, inertia is definition, the resistance to acceleration. If all inertia is, the only reason why it's there is because the energy all around us is what's resisting us. The same thing giving our universe form is what resists us. Well, then how would we make that go away? We pull that 0 point energy away. Pull that 0 point energy away. And now our waves are going to be able to transmit or flow freely. The same way if I were to go from a more dense medium to a less dense medium, there's going to be less resistance. Simply about density. Pressure and density. Now here's the rub, and we're going to get to this in a couple clips, but I just want to say it right away. Our medium, the medium we're in right now, here's the rub with it. Why is it not easy to interact with then? Because the medium is very inelastic. It's stuck tight, skin tight. We got those skin tight leather jeans on, okay? We got the skin tight leather jeans on, and we can't really get out of them really easily. It's a bitch to get off and on, right? That's what we got going on with our medium. So we need to have a smart technique for interacting with that energy. Otherwise, we can't get those things off. We're going to need some help. Good luck. Rest in peace. That's the idea. So let's go back to our Tesla talk. Okay. Here's stuff about voltage and frequency. Yeah, this is good. Okay.
It is desirable to increase both as far as practicable. It may be possible to obtain.
So what he's saying there is it's best to increase voltage and frequency as high as you can go. That's Tesla's talk. Voltage and frequency as high as you can go. That's what Salvatore Pais is saying. Equation 7, 8, and 9 of his condensed fusion whatever patent. You guys better start paying attention because apparently the Chinese are. Apparently the Chinese are paying attention to that. So make sure you're checking out equation 7, 8, and 9 of Sal Pais's magnetically confined fusion patent. That's what he's saying is that angular frequency vibration will increase and it will cause energy to increase exponentially, and it will overcome, I don't know, Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, or I don't know, some limit, whatever, Schwinger limit. I don't know, big words, chat. Okay, here we go.
Quite fair results by keeping either of these factors small, provided the other is sufficiently great. But we are limited in both directions. So voltage and frequency. It might be thought at first that if the bulb containing the filament or button of refractory material be perfectly well exhausted, that is, as far as it can be done by the use of the best apparatus, the heating would be much less intense, and that in a perfect vacuum, it could not occur at all. This is not confirmed by my experience. Quite the contrary. The better the vacuum, the more easily the bodies are brought to incandescence. And this result is interesting for many reasons. First, he goes on explaining how it all works.
The better the vacuum, the easier the bodies are brought to incandescence. The easier we can transmit energy, the better the vacuum. Why is that the case? Why would that be the case, chat? That would have to be a medium, right? If space-time was actually empty, what's the resistance? There should be no resistance. The waves should just flow freely. But there is resistance. There is resistance. Even Tesla, 125 years ago, understood from experimental observation there has to be a medium. There has to be a medium. No question. Space is not actually empty. You know what's scary about this, just to ad hoc for a second? It's scary because that's the perfect kind of thing to just to throw a monkey wrench and throw people off that. And now you've brainwashed an entire civilization scientifically for generations. Just convince them space is empty. Convince them everything is empty, and you will brainwash them and set them back over 100 years. Wild. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of you guys are thinking about some of the same clips. Nothing could convince me that Stephen Quast, yeah. Is this the full one?
The seed corn of all development, all growth, all survival. So energy, transportation, information, and manufacturing, these are the things that change humanity, that will change world power, and they are descending upon us in ways that are very unique. The technology is on the engineering benches today, but most Americans and most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply at what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour. To deliver Wi-Fi from space where you never need a cell tower to connect.
Is he talking about energy? Wi-Fi energy from space? You know what? Maybe that wasn't the right context. Let's let him keep talking.
To deliver energy from space where you never have to plug your phone in and it trickle charges and you can use that energy over time. It can be applied to cars, to houses.
We made that video go so viral that Quast got asked about it multiple times to the point where he had to like backtrack and try to like come up with some bullshit about some space launch system that's never existed, that's never going to exist. I'm like, bro, you were talking about stuff that's on the benches today. You were being really specific about it. And you're talking about beaming energy wirelessly from outer space, which is a really far way away. Outer space, I don't know about you guys, but when I looked, last I checked, outer space was really far away. And as far as I could check, without Tesla, you couldn't really beam energy efficiently over long distances. Also, he's just straight up talking about teleportation. He's like, guys, there's nowhere I can go anywhere and get anywhere else on the planet in under an hour, the way he's talking about. Just getting to the airport takes 45 minutes. Just let alone going through. I've gone through security at the airport and now it's been an hour. You're telling me you can get me anywhere on the planet to anywhere else on the planet in under an hour and it's not teleportation? It's not some orbs teleporting around my plane? Just be as... I would love for the Lieutenant General to be as specific as possible and just walk me through those steps. For a record, chat, never cross me, especially not if you are a public figure that has had appearances on podcasts, because it is extremely likely that I have the clips of you, like lots of clips, the best clips for sure. Okay, let's get back to the sauce. Okay, I think we're good on that part. So we need high voltage. Works better in a vacuum. Talks about radiant matter, which I think could be like matter waves. But I read through it and watched it, and I couldn't. It's like some of the stuff with Tesla, like this is so old that this stuff predates basically all quantum mechanics and all quantum theory. So we're dealing with a situation where we have to like actually interpret what Tesla intuitively understood under a realm of science in which he now doesn't use the same terminology at all. It's basically taking a different language and converting Tesla's physics to our current models and understanding. So I think that what Tesla might be saying when he's talking about radiant matter would be this idea that you can have matter acting like a wave because all energy is just trapped, or all matter is just trapped energy in a resonance. And he talks a little bit about it there, I think, as well, which if you watch the full video, talks about this idea that, yes, perhaps maybe all matter really is just this perfectly resonant energy in this. That's just the form of energy, is what we call matter. Pretty neat. Take quantum gravity. Okay, the next part's about needing high voltages. Oh, and sorry, I don't want to ignore this the whole time. With respect to the Giza Plateau, the structures, I did a little bit of analysis. I'll probably talk about it on Monday a little bit more. But and thank you for that donation, Jay Varga, too. Appreciate it. I think that it's somebody just misinterpreting some old scans and making some grand claim. But we will have to see and wait for the evidence to come out. What I say is this. As I learned from Sal Pais, who I referenced earlier, anything is possible with the right conditions. We call it conditional possibility. Anything is possible with the right conditions. So I'll never say something's impossible. It's conditionally possible. If it turns out there's good evidence, then yeah, maybe there are structures underneath the pyramids. But for now, I'm going to give it a likelihood of under 10%. Under 10% for right now. Okay, and thank you as well, Genome, for that dono. Okay, free energy we are at.
Now he starts talking about the disruptive discharge. Such lamps have been operated by me with current impulses of the enormous frequencies obtainable by the disruptive discharge of condensers. So what he says is you need high voltage for an electrostatic inductive effect. If you want to go low voltage, it won't work. And what is low? Well, in the modern terms, high voltage starts at 1000 volts. And in my experience, it starts working around 4000 volts that you will see some effect of it. But actually 20,000 volts, yeah, you're getting electrostatic effects.
Okay. So we need an ether. We need current pulses. And we need high voltage. Okay. High voltage. I asked some of my sources, which are probably more in the know, and we're actually talking like 50 or 100,000 volts. And then higher, of course. The higher, the better. So this is interesting, these ranges. So he's given 20,000. My sources are saying 50 to 100,000 or more. Obviously, we're pretty much just talking about how definitive do you want your test to be? You want something that when you post it on TikTok, people are going to say that must be fake, that must be AI. Is that how good you want your thing to be? Then you need to crank your voltages up. And it's actually the 50 to 100,000. I mean, what was the plasma cannon tower that we were watching a few weeks ago? That was pretty high. That was up there. That was pretty close, I think. Somewhere in that range. And that was impressive. I mean, we were seeing some visual plasma cannon-y stuff. Okay, so you need the ether, you need current pulses, and which is the discharge of a capacitor, and you need high voltage. Okay. I don't know if JK Philly fans in here, but JK Philly fans about to get off. Let me just let this play out.
you will notice them. Another few pages further on. If a tube be lighted at some distance from the coil and a plate of hard rubber or other insulating substance be interposed, the tube may be made to go out. So he has a coil with electrostatic effects. He has a bulb that is luminescent from that electrostatic induction, and you put in dielectric material like rubber between it, it diminishes. That would not happen with electromagnetic induction. The interposition of the dielectric in this case only slightly increases the inductive effect, but diminishes considerably the electrification through the air. In all cases then, when we excite luminosity in exhausted tubes by means of such a coil, the effects is due to the rapidly alternating electrostatic potential. And furthermore,
Okay. I got to stop him right there. Wow. So he's saying there, if we put a piece of rubber between, we take our positive and our negative side, right? And we put a piece of rubber in the middle. It's going to block our electrostatic effect. That's the whole point of the rubber. It's an insulator. But it's not going to block the magnetic effect. Please correct me in the chat right now if I'm interpreting that wrongly. If that's true, wow. This explains why they're using semiconductor, insulator, semiconductors. This is why you would put an insulator between your effect, because you're trying to isolate one effect over the other. This is also why a superconductor is so huge, because what does the superconductor do? It repels the magnetic fields. So if you want to control one effect versus the other effect, the best possible way to do that is to find the thing that can block one effect and not the other effect. Holy shit, chat. People in the chat are saying correct. That's correct. Wow. So that I had a breakthrough moment when I was thinking about that. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna let's talk about something. There was a man who developed a design, a very simple design in a microchip, and his name was Brian Josephson. Brian Josephson developed a very simple design that we've talked about in a lot of the stuff, a lot of the inventions that I've just looked at. Practically every single one. All use some form of it. Now, you all may not have recognized it. Why? Because what these inventors do is they use a lot of different names for the same thing. So you might have seen it called a Josephson junction. You might have also seen it called a SQUID, SQUID, and you'll actually hear it called the SQUID quite a lot. All it really is, get ready for it, a semiconductor, an insulator, and a semiconductor, all right next to each other. That's it. That's the magic. That's all there is. So simple. So elegant. And yet, if you look at Hal Puthoff's patent, you'll see it in there. And if you look at Tesla talking right now, what do you see in Tesla's work right now? Tesla is specifically talking about this idea of the interaction of what put in an insulator between two dielectrics, right? It's quite simple. And now it starts to make sense. It's because when we are dealing with microchips, we're dealing with simple geometries and patterns. We want the simplest pattern possible. That's the crazy part about microchips, is that when it comes to microchips, you're literally just dealing with, like, put a semiconductor here, put an insulator next to it, another semiconductor, and make the chip as tiny as we can get that thing. It actually made me wonder when I first learned that. What are there other designs that are even better? Ones that we haven't come up with yet? If that thing is that powerful, just some simple design like that, what else can people come up with? Huh. Interesting. Okay, let's keep going. This is a good question. I don't remember the answer. This is oh no, I do remember the answer. The reason why people are getting radiation sickness from going near these craft is that when they're bending space-time, they're actually changing the wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum and the rays around them. So you can get blue shifted up. Is it blue shifted up into ultraviolet? Yeah, I think so. Blue shifted up into ultraviolet, and then you can get extremely harsh sunburn and radiation sickness. So for the person who knew, yeah, see, look at this chat. Look how good I'm getting. I'm just a journalist and healthcare IT guy, and I've been accused of being like Russian spies and also accused of being VFX expert. I can barely do any of that, but getting a little bit good at physics. Okay, here we go, chat. I gave you the secret there of the SQUID. So the insulator reducing the electricity, but not the magnetism. That is so wild too, because the other video is the parametric oscillation video. This one,
Adding our variable inductor into the circuit.
What the hell, man?
Capacitor only needs a minuscule amount of.
I don't know how this didn't get more views on my social media. I think it's just because people are retarded in general. The bottom right, you see that spinning wheel in the bottom right? That's what we're talking about. Why does the spinning wheel work in the bottom right here? Why does it work? Why does it do anything? Why does spinning a wheel through a magnetic field do anything? Well, the reason is because it's blocking you're making a cavity. And so for part of it, you're blocking the ether flow. And the other part of it, you're not blocking the ether flow. We basically just created a gate. It's just a gate. The reason why I love this concept and love this in general is just because of the simplicity of it. It's just so simple. Basically, what it means at the simplest level is that we're churning up the ether. Energy is us just churning up the ether. Or electricity is us just churning up the ether. Crank that ether up. Break it out. It's stuck in an equilibrium, and we just got to break it up out of equilibrium and then just harvest the energy like crops. Wild. Yeah, it's just, the answer is stupidly simple. And I think that that's going to be the case. I think a lot of people would say this, is that the answer to the universe should be simple. The universe should be a very simplistic thing in terms of how it was designed. But then when you come up with a simple answer, next thing you know, everybody's calling you a kook. Okay.
It must be attributed to the harmonic alternation produced directly by the machine and not to any superimposed vibration which might be thought to exist. Such superimposed vibrations are impossible when we work with an alternate current machine. Now, what are superimposed?
So I think I had another different interpretation than Master Eva on this part, but I think what Tesla was saying there is Tesla was trying to stop the debunkers. The debunkers in 1891 were coming at Tesla and they're saying, no, your machine's just vibrating because like it's just shaking. And just you're measuring the shaking of the machine. And Tesla's going, no, it only works when we work in harmonics. That's how we know it's not some random shaking of the machine. Like we're seeing these harmonic interactions. And if you don't know what harmonic interactions are, first thing I want you to do is this. Google cymatics. 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 And also, who wanted that Discord invite? Let me get that. Cymatics. Google that. Okay. In cymatics, what we learned is that specific frequencies are resonant. That means when you're turning your dial on your frequencies, like on your radio, all of a sudden, music. You go from static, boom. Once you hit the right frequency, music. That exact same thing occurs when we're interacting with the 0-point energy. That's how we do it. So the fourth requirement, resonance, harmonics, coherence. You're going to hear all these words. Why are we using these words? Because these words describe order. Order arising from disorder. Spontaneous order arising from disorder. There's your Discord, brother. Thank you very much, Troy. Appreciate you. And the other thing then, let's let him play this out because I think he says more here. I actually can't remember.
Vibrations. Such superimposed vibrations are impossible when we work with an alternate current machine. If a spring be gradually tightened and released, it does not perform independent vibrations. So if you have a spring, you compress it, you release it gradually, then it doesn't perform independent vibrations. For this, a sudden release is necessary. So you compress a string and you let it go. So with the alternate currents from a dynamo machine, electromagnetic induction, the medium is harmonically strained and released. And the medium is the ether, the energy surrounding the experiment, the coils. This giving rise to only one kind of waves, electromagnetic waves. A sudden contact or break or a sudden given way of the dielectric, as in the disruptive discharge of a Leyden jar, are essential for the production of superimposed waves. How clear can he be? Why didn't nobody get this? Or why didn't I?
Okay. So at the end, but this is the biggest part. If you haven't watched, pull up Salvatore Pais' Hard Truths #1 with Ashton Forbes. And in that interview, you're going to hear Sal talking about, God, I hope it was that one. If it was that one, it was the Dave Rossi one with Sal as well. Him pounding on the vacuum, pounding on it, tenderizing it, then to rip a hole through the vacuum. That's what Tesla is talking about here with respect to creating a sudden break in the ether. So we have this energy around us. We're on this, we have the tight pants on, the tight leather pants on. We can't get those pants off. They're stuck, chat. We ate a little bit too much at dinner when we went out. We were trying to look nice, and turns out the pants are stuck now. Believe it or not, pants are stuck on. They won't come off. And to make matters worse, it's business time. You know what? It worked out. It's business time. We might have somebody back up. The pants won't come off. And you don't want to be the awkward situation where you need that person to, literally rip your pants off. So now what do we need? We need a tool. We need another mechanism to interact with the pants. Now, this is the part I can make something up. I have no idea. This analogy is going off the rails. Let's just say scissors. We're going to cut these pants open. We're going to cut these bad boys off. In the realm of 0-point energy, we want to create a harmonic oscillation frequency. So high frequency is one way to interact with it, and there's going to be more on that later. But we also want to get to the right. Where's the right station? What's the right station to interact with? And the only clue that I've got so far on that, no update on that, is just probably related to 1 divided by 137. The whatever it's called. I forget the name of it. 1 divided by 137, the magic number. Oh yeah, he keeps going. This is pretty good right here.
Why didn't I get this? I've been so many years working at it. It's not electromagnetic at all. You can use it. Okay, let's continue by using a powerful, rapidly alternating electrostatic field. So that is not a normal form of resonance. Next page. In such an electrostatic field, interesting phenomena may be observed, especially if the alternations are kept low and the potentials excessively high. In addition to the luminous phenomena mentioned, one may observe that any insulated conductor gives sparks when the hand or another object is approached to it, and the sparks may often be powerful. That's pretty fun to watch, I think. So he has a room with coils, and he has induced them with the electrostatic by the disruptive discharge of a high voltage capacitor, single change of voltage, and the coils become electrostatic resonant, let's call it that way, because I'm not sure if it's the longitudinal magnetodielectric mode, but it makes sense. So LMD, and then inside that field, everything becomes electrified from the electrostatic field that is changing rapidly. Very high voltages, he mentions, and a low frequency. This is also interesting. It is true, the electrostatic effects diminish nearly with the cube of the distance from the coil, whereas the electromagnetic inductive effects diminish simply by the distance. So this is generally accepted.
So let me simplify this for you, chat. Watch out, Lulu. Want to come up, say hello? Want to come up here? Jesus, girl. Oh, it's a Lulu sighting. Oh, Snapchat. Oh my God, it's been forever since we saw Lulu. Holy smokes. She didn't bite me, chat. Holy shit. Holy shit, chat. This is rarer than the orbs, chat. Holy shit, chat. There's a dog on me. Oh my God. I was able to pick up Lulu. Oh my floof. Wow. 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 Yeah, my dog's a wolf, by the way. She's a legit wolf. Okay, chat. Wow. I can't believe I didn't get bit right there. That's crazy. Wow. Good dog. I just saw her down there chilling, and I was like, oh, normally she's like in my room or something. And, you know, if she's chilling there, usually then she doesn't mind being picked up. So, okay. Wow. Okay. We'll get another view of the dog here in a second. I'm going to let her chill for a second. But here's the thing. What was he just talking about there? Going back to the science, going back to the free energy. How do we create our bubble of space-time? We create an electric field. We create an electric field in that region of space-time. Okay, girl. Okay, yes. There you go. Okay, let's. Oof. Okay. Oh, I know what I'll do. Hold on. Okay. We create our electric field in the region of space-time, in the region of the Doge. We create an electric field. And if we create an electric field in this region that's powerful enough, this wolf will teleport from right here to wherever else we want it to go. Wherever we want this Doge to go. Is that a good Doge? Yes, it is. That's a good Doge, yes. Oh my God. Give me those viewers, Lulu. Give me those viewers. Give me those views, boo. You want to go down? Okay. Oh. Okay. Let me get in here. Okay, chat. Wow. That was great. The number one request I would always get is, where's Lulu? Show Lulu. I think I've tried like 5 times. She would never let me pick her up. Okay. So back to the task at hand. When we electrify a field, that's how we polarize it, because everything in the field becomes electrified due to the rapidly changing electric field. This is how we're polarizing the medium. So when somebody asks you, what does polarizing the vacuum mean? We know the answer right now. So, number 5, polarizing the vacuum equals electrifying it. Electrifying a region of space-time. Electrify the region of space-time, and you've created a polarized field. More on that shortly. Should we just skip ahead? Actually, let's listen to a couple more minutes here, because I think he cooks here.
And known, but he says, when we establish an electrostatic field of force, the condition is very different. For then, instead of the differential effect of both the terminals, we get their conjoined effects. What? The electrostatic field of force? Okay. He is using that electrostatic induction from the disruptive discharge. So actually, he is talking about a dynamic effect, and that cumulative wave, that superimposed wave, is from that single direction discharge. Now, it's interesting to think about which polarity to discharge, because we can discharge from positive to 0, or we can discharge from negative voltage to 0. There is a difference there, and he has referred to that. The apparatus.
Oh, Yahtzee chat. Do you feel the Yahtzee coming? What did he just say right there? There are 2 ways to polarize the vacuum. It was Tom Bearden. Tom Bearden mentioned this first. You can polarize it 2 ways. You can produce energy at a distance, and you can absorb energy at a distance. We can polarize the vacuum 2 different ways. Can you guess what one of those 2 ways is going to be, chat? Spoiler alert, they're going to be what Tom Bearden said. So, we can create an electric field in any region of space-time. Just make a region of space-time. This cup is a region of space-time. My area in my hands is a region of space-time. If we make an electric field of any form in a region of space-time, that's polarizing the vacuum. That's engineering space-time. That's the idea of how to engineer space-time. And why is this important? Because we can't produce free energy from nothing. But we can engineer space-time itself. So you might say, if I'm playing a video game, I'm playing Minecraft, I can't produce a bedrock block. I can't break through a bedrock block. They're unbreakable. But I can go to creative mode and then just destroy it. And you're like, well, what's the difference? You said you couldn't break it. Yeah, well, I can't break it. Conventionally, physics won't let me break the bedrock block. But I can just go to creative mode and make that block not there anymore. We're literally talking about that level of petty physics bullshit at this point. That's actually what we're talking about. It's 100% real. 100% real.
Apparatus must be capable of producing high electrostatic potentials changing in value with extreme rapidity. High frequencies are especially wanted, because then you can keep the potential of the same direction, so DC, and it is desired that the converted currents should also be of one direction. The resistance of the discharging circuits should, of course, be so chosen that there are no oscillations. He says the resistance of the discharging circuit should, of course, be so chosen that there are no oscillations. That's a bit weird. I came to the conclusion that his discharge circuit. So is the spark gap and the capacitor and the stout copper bar. Here he says, with that hairpin circuit, in operating devices on the above plan, I have observed curious phenomena of impedance, which are of interest. And then finally, but there is a possibility of obtaining energy, not only in the form of light, but motive power and energy of any other form in some more direct.
Okay, I'm just going to read this myself for you guys because this is where I took the quote, right? This is where it says, there's the possibility of obtaining energy, not in the form of light, but motive power in some more direct way from the medium. The time will be when this will be accomplished, and the time has come when one may utter such words before an enlightened audience without being considered a visionary, and then blah, blah, blah. Then, with the light obtained from the medium, with the power derived from it, with every form of energy obtained without effort, from the store forever inexhaustible, humanity will advance with great strides. One more time for the queued up clip. Then, with the light obtained from the medium, with the power derived from it, with every form of energy obtained without effort, from the store forever inexhaustible, humanity will advance with great strides. That is our future. The mere contemplation of these magnificent possibilities expands our minds, strengthens our hopes, and fills our hearts with supreme delight. Nikola Tesla, 1891. Whoo! Nikola Tesla was cooking, chat. But if you thought we were done, then you are mistaken. So his final thoughts, what were his final thoughts? Whatever. I think we went through the final thoughts. I want to go and show this experiment. Okay. This is pretty damn cool. So the VR stuff he does here is pretty wild. So we're just going to let this play. Think I want to just go to the second part. Okay, here we go. So this is a visual representation of the field lines, the force lines for electromagnetism here.
Again, is a piece of the conductor of the resonant coil. And green is the electrostatic field when resonant. So in this phase of the resonant mode, the electrostatic is maximum. We have pure voltage, and the electrostatic field has been built up around the conductor, which is a polarized ether field. Now, with transverse electromagnetic resonance, these field lines move sideways. And when moving sideways, they drag along ether. And this ether is then moving in a vortex, and that vortex becomes stronger and bigger and larger in volume. And this swirling vortex is the magnetic field. Let me draw it in. So the static field moves sideways, can move both directions depending on the polarity of the transformation. And then the ether is swirling around it like so. And that is the magnetic field that is being built up. Then the electrostatic lines of force diminish in their amplitude, in their volume, in their power, in their energy, and completely transform into the magnetic field, which is that swirling volume of ether. Is...
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I missed a good part. Okay, we got to go back to this other part, guys. Sorry, hold on. This is earlier.
Current primary here. It isn't even a primary, but let's just take this rod as an example. If we now connect it to ground again, but this time not.
Let me explain what we're doing here. What we're doing here is we are creating the charged field. We're creating the charged field. So he's basically saying if we create the charged fields, then what happens? Okay.
So it expands from all the directions in case of a positive time, because the discharge is so rapidly and so coil, so no inductance, then that 20,000 volt is suddenly discharged. And you would think that they would move sideways again, but it doesn't do that. This time, because the discharge is so rapidly and so fast, it is discharging in the direction of these lines of force, and it creates a longitudinal pressure field. So it expands from all the directions in case of a positive 20 kV. If this was a negative 20 kV, then the discharge would go in the other direction. Then the longitudinal field would be an implosion field into the conductor. So then the field around it collapses inward. And that is if this is negative. So you have a volume of ether that is polarized, that is connected to that conductor. And if it is discharged through a non-inductive path, so not a coil, then you get a sudden change in the electrostatic field that moves along the direction of those field lines, of those electrostatic lines of force, inwards or outwards, depending on the polarity. And it creates a expanding field of force or a contracting field of force. An implosion.
Yahtzee. Holy shit, Yahtzee. Negative energy. Holy shit. It really is just an implosion of energy. Yeah. Nobody wanted us to see this. They didn't want the world to see this. It does make me wonder, there has to be some other videos of a negative implosion event. He just described what we're looking at here. So no question, no doubt, Hal Puthoff knows this video is real. No question. No question. Hal Puthoff knows this is real. If I cornered Eric W. Davis on this video, there he would squirm. He would squeal like a little piggy. That was my little pig noises. Yeah. Where's the part where he talks about negative and positive? Oh, okay. Okay, there's one more part in this. What? Dude, they messed StreamYard up, dude. This sucks, man.
It is perpendicular to the conductor.
Oh, chat. So if you thought us having a three-dimensional diagram that actually explains that, what did he just explain right there? He said when we get to extremely high current pulses through high voltage discharge, then the force lines begin to act scalar. That's a scalar force that he just described. I just can tell intuitively just from staring at it now, from watching so much physics. What that guy just described is an outward or inward magnetic monopole, a scalar effect. That's what he just described. How did he say how to achieve it? He said specifically high voltage, high frequency. If you do this at very high voltage, we discharge these at high voltages. What's happening is that instead of the lines of force going perpendicular, all of a sudden, they're going the opposite. They're following our force line. So when we look at this image here, what he was saying earlier is that when you would discharge at low voltage, these green lines are going to shift this way. The force is going to go that way. But when you discharge at high voltages, then what happens is the force follows the line. It goes the opposite direction. And what that does is create a squeezing. Depending on your polarization, it's either going to be an outward pressure or an inward pressure. And what is a pressure? Gravity. They're creating a gravitational force 100%, no question, no doubt. Tesla figured out anti-gravity. You're staring at it right here. This is Hal Puthoff's space-time metric engineering. This is literally how to polarize the vacuum. Polarizing the vacuum is taking high voltage discharge and manipulating space-time itself with it. Mic drop. Boom. We're out. Just kidding. But it's real, though. But real. Okay. Let's go back to that. Oh, Mark Scott. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you, man. Damn, we are getting really, really close to figuring it out. Really close. And I'm the kind of guy that I want to know exactly how something works because I want it to work the first time I test it. We're getting pretty close. But we need some pretty big voltages. Oh, here it is. I took notes. Guys, sometimes you should just read your notes. Oh yeah, okay. No, we're already at it. We're at the exact the right moment here. Okay, so a little bit further on right here, he's going to explain the negative energy thing. There we go.
Attracting field of force.
Pay attention,
an implosion
chat.
or an explosion of energy, and it is perpendicular to the conductor. The coil and the electrostatic energy is built up around the coil.
Too fast.
An implosion or an explosion of energy, electrostatic field that moves along the direction of those field lines, of those electrostatic lines of force, inwards or outwards, depending on the polarity. And it creates a expanding field of force or a contracting field of force. An implosion or an explosion of energy, and it is perpendicular to the conductor. The coil and the electrostatic energy, which is built up
perpendicular
around the coil,
to the conductor. Okay, so it's perpendicular to the conductor is also huge. Why? Because the force that the plane is going to feel is going to be inwardly pressured onto the plane. Absolutely. It's either annihilating the airplane or it's sending it teleporting somewhere else. Either way, shit, MH370 is pretty screwed. Not going to lie.
Transfers, but with the longitudinal static mode, it moves outwards and inwards depending on the polarity change of the voltage. When it goes from positive to negative, it goes outwards. And when it goes from negative to 0 or positive, it goes inwards, like so. 20,000 volts is a lot of volts.
I know where the plane went. Yeah. Just simple physics. It's just simple physics, it turns out. Turns out the coordinates in the bottom left of this video were actually super important. Not just to tell us where the plane is, but to tell us the direction that the plane is going. Because in this video, we can tell from the coordinate shifts tell us no question this plane is going to the east. This plane is going to the east. We know the plane in the video that we are watching here, based on the coordinates that we see in the bottom left, this plane is flying generally to the east. Okay, you might say. And I did just cut out before the best part. There you go. So where'd that plane just go then? Well, what did he just say right here in this video? He said that the lines of force are going to be perpendicular to the pressure. So the inward pressure or outward pressure force is going to be perpendicular. So what this means is if we are staring at three orbs, spinning around a plane, the vertical motion of these orbs is important. Okay. God, this is so annoying. Notice how they're spinning around the plane on all axes right here. They're spinning around the plane 360 degrees around the plane right here. We wouldn't be able to tell the direction of the plane, but watch. Watch the orbs closely right now. Look at them reorient right now. They're shifting. They're vertical around the plane. They're vertical around the plane. Why are they vertical around the plane? Because this plane is going backwards. That's where that plane went. And if that plane's flying to the east, then where is backwards? Backwards is to the west. And if you don't believe me, well, here is the zap video where you can clearly see the plane getting pulled backwards. The moment before the zap happens, you can see the reflection or the shadow of the plane a little bit further behind in the very next frame, a fraction of a second later. No question, no doubt, you can see it right there. This plane is being pulled backwards because that plane has had a negative polarization applied to it. Negative polarization applied to the space-time metric engineering. You can literally see the plane getting pulled backwards. You can see it in the thermal video as well. This video that we're watching tonight explains it right here. I'm going to replay it now. Now that I just showed you, what we're looking at is 1,000% real in those MH370 videos. Nobody figured out space-time metric engineering and then faked that video. I might be rising up the charts on the world's leading experts of space-time metric engineering right now. And unless you had at least my level of knowledge currently, there's no way you could fake those videos as accurately as they have been faked, if they were faked, to fake them in that level of detail. Okay. So now pay attention. I'm going to go back 30 seconds. We're going to go back a little bit further.
Or outwards, depending on the polarity. And it creates a expanding field of force.
So the polarity determines whether or not it's going outward or inwards. With respect to our airplane, the polarity is going to determine whether or not the plane's going forwards or backwards. If it was positive polarity, that plane's going to go forwards. Negative polarity, plane's going backwards. So I was being coy. I don't know exactly where it went, but we do know where it went. It went backwards. No question. That plane went backwards. Why? Well, science. Science is why.
Or a contracting field of force. An implosion or an explosion of energy. And it is perpendicular to the conductor. The coil and the electrostatic energy, which is built up around that coil, is not moving sideways anymore, transverse, but with a longitudinal static mode, it moves outwards and inwards, depending on the polarity change of the voltage. When it goes from positive to negative, it goes outwards. And when it goes from negative to 0 or positive.
So negative to 0, that's our negative energy. It's going negative to 0 and it's going inwards. And the sudden discharge, what's our sudden discharge? Chat, Tesla was right. Tesla was right. What is our sudden discharge? This is our sudden discharge. Oh, come on, man. StreamYard, get your shit together. The sudden discharge is the orbs converging on the plane. That's the sudden, right there. See them converge? That's the sudden discharge. Boom. What a video. This is just wild.
It goes inwards, like so. 20,000 volts is a lot of volts. this means you will have to work with spark gap. And Tesla was very clear. You need a quenched spark gap so that it doesn't oscillate on the primary. You want a single buildup of voltage and a fast discharge.
explains
Like
it
so,
again.
if you have the axis here, then the voltage this way, positive, will slowly build up into the capacitor, and then fast discharge without change of polarity. So 0 and positive voltage and time. You could also do this in a negative sense. Then you have negative voltage in the time axis. A negative voltage builds up, and then it is suddenly discharged back to 0.
That right there is exactly. Welcome, JK Philly fan. JK gave me this recommendation, and I didn't think I was ready to understand it. And I watched it, and I just went, holy shit. You are literally staring at it right here. There is what is happening with the orbs. What are the orbs doing? They're charging up the voltage. Chat, the orbs are fucking charging up the volt. Why are they dancing around the plane? They're charging up the voltage. They're doing literally what he's showing on the video right here. And then at the end, what do? They converge and they discharge the voltage. Poof, plane gone. It's simple, actually. It's elegant. The letter to Ashton Forbes was real. Somebody's on the inside knows we have this technology and they're sick and tired of hiding it. And they're probably sick and tired of hiding it because they know what good it could bring people. So final thoughts. And then there's another version here. I'm gonna let you guys, I think, watch this other version. But basically, he goes into the toroidal form of this as well, and basically says that we could create stabilized forms with standing waves, and that potentially there might be two different modes. You might have two different modes where you might have one mode where you have like a plasma ball where it's just stable. So there might be one mode where your plasma ball is stable. And then you have another mode where you're forcing fusion to happen, like a star. So there might be two different ways where you could have just like shape and form, stability, where you can trap energy and basically create matter out of energy. And then you might have another form where you can cause transmutation, fusion, fission, etc. Because in one form, you're using the pressure to stabilize you. In another form, you're using the pressure actively to create or destroy. So they are connected concepts, and they're all connected by the same physics and science of this idea of, well, now, hopefully, if you've been paying attention, you should have some idea of what a longitudinal transverse wave is here, because we just described it. We are creating these pressure waves through high frequency, high voltage. And it's all related to the principles of action. And action is just force, movement. It doesn't matter what direction something is going. The direction doesn't matter. All that matters is something is moving. If something is moving, there is force. If there is force, there is energy. So therefore, movement is energy. So when we talk about this concept of like back EMF, which is this idea of this collapsing magnetic field, it's all just related to the principle of action. It doesn't matter if the field is collapsing or being created. In any situation, force is force. Energy is energy. That's why there is no exotic negative energy. Negative energy, as we just learned, is simply referring to a state where you go from a negative voltage to 0. That's it. And that is allowed by the math, 100%. No question, no doubt. Whether or not people want to call that exotic, that's the psyop. That's the rub, is when we start making up bullshit about saying something's exotic, that it's fictional, that it's a unicorn, when it's actually real. Instead of manipulating the object directly, we manipulate the space-time through vacuum polarization, and that breaks the classical restrictions. So we're not going to break the laws. We're going to change the laws. There's no breaking the laws of physics. We're just going to change the laws of physics in a region of space-time. That's what we're going to do. Create our own little universe. And keep in mind that voltage, V, the big V that we want, what is voltage? Voltage is just a stored up force. That's like if I have big muscles, which I don't. But if I had big muscles, that would be my voltage. That's my force if I'm going to push on something. So voltage, this idea of electricity, is already, that's what it means. So when we're getting high voltage, we're getting a lot of horsepower, we're getting a lot of muscles. Okay, guys, it was a pleasure to go through this with you tonight. The 5 observables of free energy, chat. I'm stealing it from the UFO people. 5 observables. Number one, I mean, the ether. The ether is real. Ether is the energy all around us. It's the 0-point energy all around us. We can manipulate the ether and manipulate the energy all around us, and we can manipulate the physical properties of the objects within the ether. 100%. Number 2, take that L, chat. Take that L. Take it. Wear it. Current pulses, discharges of a capacitor are what we want to be able to produce in order to produce these effects. Current pulses, discharges of the capacitor. Number 3, third observable, high voltage. High voltage. Minimum 50 to 100,000 volts. Higher, the better. High voltage. Number 4, resonance, harmonics, frequency. If you don't understand these concepts, look up cymatics. Watch the videos about cymatics. Or just turn on your radio. Turn your radio on and spin it around randomly, and you're going to get static. If you tune in to the specific frequency, all of a sudden you get music. Why is that? The reason is because of harmonics and resonance. That's the reason. That same concept allows us to interact with the ether. So, the last and final thing is then what is polarizing the vacuum? Polarizing the vacuum is electrifying a region of space-time. Electrify a region of space-time, and you can polarize the vacuum. And it turns out that literally electrifying and polarizing a region of space-time in our atmosphere is called producing a plasma. We call it producing a plasma, and we said it's its own unique state of matter, the 4th state of matter. We've had some quite interesting revelations tonight, chat. We've learned what polarizing the vacuum means. We've learned that you can do it in 2 different forms, which is consistent with what we were expecting, which is consistent with what Tom Bearden was talking about in 1985, almost 40 years ago. And we know it's related to plasma. And we have learned that we also had a little bit of a fun tidbit tonight where I gave you guys a little bit of information about Nobel Prize winner. Let me say that again. Nobel Prize winner, Brian Josephson, and his incredible inventions. So I hope you guys had a great night. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and we will talk on Monday, and we'll dig into more science, guys. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Peace.
worlds where the skies are wide. Talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space. Traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight. Just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeeze so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine. Spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crump shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night with wormholes and stars.